It was late evening in Chicago, and the cold wind whispered through the empty streets. Inside a small grocery store on 7th Avenue, Daniel, a kind but lonely shopkeeper in his early 30s, was closing up for the night. His day had been quiet, his heart even quieter. Ever since his wife passed away 3 years ago, Daniel lived mostly in silence, working, surviving, existing. Just as he was turning off the lights, the bell above the door jingled. To his surprise, it wasn't a customer, but a dog, dripping from the rain, holding a crumpled piece of paper in its mouth. Daniel kneeled down, gently taking the paper. Inside were a few coins and a note written neatly. 1 loaf of bread, 1 packet of milk, 1 bar of soap. Thank you. Daniel blinked in disbelief. He looked at the dog, a golden retriever with soft, intelligent eyes. "Is this for me?" he asked softly. The dog wagged its tail and barked once, as if saying yes. Amused and curious, Daniel packed the items carefully in a small bag and placed it on the floor. The dog grabbed it gently between its teeth and trotted out of the store into the rainy night. Something inside Daniel stirred. He wiped his hands, locked the door, and decided to follow. The journey. The dog walked through puddles and crossed streets carefully, even waiting at a red light. Then it reached a bus stop and sat under the shelter, the bag still in its mouth. When the bus arrived, the dog jumped in. The conductor looked amused, until the dog nudged him and showed a small pouch attached to its collar. Inside were bus fare coins and a note that read, "Dogs Stop, Maple Street." The conductor laughed and punched the ticket. Daniel quickly paid for his own and sat nearby, eyes wide in disbelief. The passengers couldn't stop staring. A dog commuting by itself wasn't something you saw every day. When the bus reached Maple Street, the dog got off, gracefully, and started walking again. Daniel followed, drenched but fascinated. The house. After a few turns, the dog reached a small white house surrounded by an old fence. It placed the shopping bag at the doorstep and rang the doorbell with its paw. Once, twice, thrice. No answer. The dog barked softly and rang again. Finally, the door opened, and out came a sleepy, grumpy man in his mid-40s. "Max, what's wrong with you? You woke me up again," the man snapped. Daniel stepped forward, shocked. "Sir, this dog just bought groceries by himself. He even took the bus." "That's incredible." The man sighed, rubbing his eyes. Yeah, he's done it for years, but he still forgets the keys. I told him not to wake me up." Daniel stood frozen. The man's tone cut through his awe like a knife. He couldn't believe it. The world's most intelligent, loyal creature being scolded for one tiny mistake. The man shut the door, muttering, and Max the dog sat quietly on the porch, ears down, tail still. Daniel walked over, knelt beside him, and whispered, "You did good, buddy. You did everything right." The realization. As Daniel walked back to his store that night, something broke inside him, and something else awakened. He realized how often people fail to see beauty in the small things. How love, effort, and kindness go unnoticed just because they're expected. He thought about Max's loyalty, how even after being yelled at, the dog still smiled, still delivered, still loved. That night, Daniel made a promise to himself. "I won't let this world turn me cold. I'll keep seeing good, even when others don't." The stranger. The next day, Daniel printed flyers. "Lost dog? Sound near 7th Avenue store. Please contact." By noon, a young woman arrived, Elena, the dog's owner's daughter. She looked worried, but kind-hearted. "Max goes out sometimes to help my dad," she said softly. "He trained him when Mom was alive. But ever since she passed, Dad's been angry at everything. Daniel nodded. Max is incredible. He made me see life differently. They talked for hours, sharing stories, laughter, and tears. Days turned into weeks, and soon, Daniel found himself waiting every evening, not for customers, but for Elena and Max. Love blossoms. They started walking together, sometimes with coffee, sometimes with silence. Elena taught him how Max understood emotions. Daniel taught her how to dream again. One night, as they watched the sunset near the lake, Elena said, "You know what Max taught me? That love doesn't need perfection. It just needs presence." Daniel smiled. Maybe that's why I'm here, because Max delivered something more than groceries. He delivered you. She laughed softly, tears shining in her eyes. As the sky turned golden, Daniel leaned closer, brushing the hair from her face, and kissed her, Guy. Gently under the fading light, Max barked happily, wagging his tail, as if blessing their moment. A year later, Elena and Daniel got married in a small ceremony, Max carrying the rings down the aisle in a tiny tuxedo. They opened a new pet foundation called Max's Hope, helping train and rescue street animals. At the inauguration, Daniel said, "This foundation was built not by hands, but by paws that taught us humanity." The crowd smiled. Max barked proudly. And Elena whispered to Daniel, "See, even miracles can have fur." Lesson of the story: never try to live up to the world's expectations. They never end. True love sees effort, not perfection. Kindness has power. It changes people silently. Sometimes the smallest hearts carry the biggest lessons.